Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Faith Cantor and today I am joined by the lovely Lester from Transformation Station. It's
Hello.
a bit of a mouthful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Hello Lester.
Hello.
I was really keen to speak to you because you've got quite a lot of strings to your bow really, haven't you? You are a coach, but you're also a hypnotherapist
That's right.
and theatre
I'm
healer.
an advanced theta healer and a master NLP practitioner.
That's
And
the
I'm
one.
also, I'm also a personal development trainer as well. So
Yes, quite a
yeah.
bit then.
Yes, and there's lots of crossover with what we both do actually. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I just thought it'd be nice to sort of speak to you about sort of how what you do helps people heal in body and mind, because it's all, like you said, a lot of it crosses over with what I do with the whole detoxing body and mind. A lot of what you're doing is helping people release and let go of heal from habits and traumas and all
Yeah,
sorts of
all that stuff.
lots of different stuff. So it's pretty much it's doing what the same sort of things that I do, but just slightly differently.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so what if when somebody comes to see you for say the hypnotherapy or whatever, what sort of um, what sort of is the what do you do with them? I guess.
Well, the first thing I tend to do is I tend to send them a questionnaire. I ask them some questions. So that gives me a list of usually what they don't want anymore because they
Yeah.
say, they don't want to be stressed or they don't want, all the things that they no longer want to have. And it gives me just that wee bit extra time to do some prep for them. So I do that, and through the course of what I'm doing is I'm clearing trauma, and there's a lot of tools you can do to actually get rid of that. And I'm also, giving them the opposite back. So if they're, stressed, then I'm giving them calm. Yeah. So so I'm very pay attention to their language and do it in the language that suits them. Some people speak in visual terms and some in auditory terms and feeling terms. And yeah, so that's part of it anyway. So
I think that's what we all want really at the end of the day is calm, isn't it?
yeah,
Calm and harmony and balance and peace.
totally.
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of therapies and treatments and things, that's what you're aiming for, isn't it? Is to be in harmony with the body and the mind.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the work that we both do does that. Um, with when your body has, some sort of problem or behavior, there's usually a positive intention for it. It's trying to. So, for example, when you had your illness at the time, it was your body was, knocking on the door and saying, you've got to take notice of this.
Yeah.
This is a message, and you have to take action. And it's asking you to to change and to acknowledge it and to get the learning from it as well. So, what I do is I try and help people to get that learning and to embrace the feelings they have about it and to be able to actually process them all the way through
Yeah.
so they can actually clear them. Because people, their instinct is to just push away stress and stuff that they don't want. And in a lot of ways, that's not always the best thing to do. If they can be guided through it, they can actually clear it. So, and also, it can be telling you to take notice of what you're eating and what you're uh, doing to your body. So yeah, so you got that message and you changed and obviously, you now have a lot of joy in your life and you can share that with other people. So it's great.
Yeah. I think
I
that's really important.
got too.
Oh, thank you. And I didn't pay him to do that either.
It's very nice, William.
um,
I haven't closed at it actually today.
oh, thank
There's
you.
a lot of commonality, and so yeah, so I'm preaching to the converted here.
I think what you just said is really important as well. Is that I think when we become ill, whether that's with a headache or upset stomach or whatever it is, a lot of the way that we are in society, what we tend to then do is go for the painkillers or try to find something to fix it or mask it, or just so we can get on with our day or whatever. But actually what you said is really important, and that these things are here to help us heal from something, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time things that have manifested in the body are actually to do with what's going on in the mind, aren't they?
Of course, totally. There was a lady I was actually doing some hypnotherapy with. It was about a different issue, and she said she was going to see someone about her back the following day. And I started, asking her about her routine, and I realised that she was taking on everything. It's like a typical thing that mums do. They take on all the responsibilities. And she had a grandfather she had chickens in her in her house, and she had a grandfather who used to feed the chickens, and she took that job away from him. And she was doing everything, and I sort of said, maybe that gave him a sense of purpose to do that job. And she was like, oh, right. And I said, maybe you're getting these problems with your back because you're doing too much and you're not delegating anything. So I asked her unconscious mind about it, and you can get yes and no responses from the unconscious. And it said, yes, that's what she's doing. So I said, I tell you what, if we make a deal that she'll delegate certain things, and that she'll, if she had clients that she was doing like a massage therapies, and I said that you won't do all the difficult massages all together, maybe do a facial or, something else in between. And the next day she went to get her back checked, and they said, what's happened is, everything's looks good, and so your unconscious can just go, right, okay, as long as we do a deal together, then yes, I'll behave. Otherwise, you're going to still get pain.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense, because I think a lot of the time when you're trying to do so much, you're carrying this extra weight, aren't you? So then people get these back problems.
Totally. Yeah.
I know myself that when there's been times when I've been going through a stressful time, and my stomach started to play up. And I thought there was something wrong with my stomach, but actually when I've addressed the stress, that this overthinking,
Yes.
and calmed myself down, the stomach problem's just gone away.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Another interesting thing about your stomach is that a lot of people, when I ask them, how do you feel at the start of a session, quite often they have a churning in their stomach or something starts there, and then it moves in a direction, it maybe goes up the way or whatever, and you can actually track that, and you can reverse it and give people the opposite. So one person that's in our network, we met at a network meeting, and they were talking about stresses they had, and they were like saying, everyone's stressing me and they're doing this, and people were kind of like backing away a little bit, and I went over and I just grabbed their hands and went and did this in the other direction. So how do you feel now? Oh, everyone's like loving me and be kind to me, and so energy has emotion as well, and when people know what their feel-good emotion is, you can find it by actually finding what their feel-bad emotion is and reversing it. So
that's interesting.
And that's quite empowering as well. Yeah.
And the words we use as well, isn't it? A lot of the time, if you actually listen to the words you're using, that gives you quite an insight to what's going on in the body as well, doesn't it?
Yes, totally. And people will say throwaway comments as well. When I saw that person, I felt like I was 8 years old. And then you say, what happened when you're 8 years old? Because they're giving clues all the time, and then you can clear that part. So it's very, very powerful. Language is one of the most often overlooked areas, and most often confused as well. I mean, I know in your book you've worded it well. You've got a thing about affirmations, and I met a lady who said, she says, I don't know why I've got this illness, because I keep saying, I'm not going to be stressed anymore. And I say, well, that's not going to work, because you've got the word stressed in there, which is a negative word. I said, I'm going to be calm and healthy. And she's like, oh yeah, of course. And it's something that people innately know, but they sometimes need to be reminded.
Yeah.
And I think, in your book, for example, there's a lot of innate truths that people they kind of know, but when they see it in print, they go, oh yeah, I know not to do that, but I'm doing that thing, you know. So
Yeah. And sometimes you can read something and it doesn't always go in for you the first time, and the second time you're like, yes.
yes,
You know,
yes,
the affirmations is quite an interesting one as well. I've come across quite a few people that, like you say, they're using the negative affirmation rather than the positive, so they're just almost reinforcing then the negative,
totally.
but also they are saying I'm going to be well, or saying, so that they're not using it in the present tense, so that's
Yes,
always going to be in the future.
yes. I've done that one myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it makes, like you say, once you realise, it makes so much sense, and you're like, oh yeah, okay.
Totally.
Yeah.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You know,
Yeah.
Muhammad Ali said, you know, I am the greatest before he had his title fight win. You know, he basically just said that all the time, and he believed it, and anyone who came into his area just felt it from him, you know. So yeah, it can be very powerful when you get it right. Yeah.
Yeah. And with I guess with what you do, especially with the hypnotherapy, it really is, like, I guess we've already covered a little bit. You really can help with anything that's going on, mind, body, spiritually, everything, can't you?
Yeah, totally, totally. Um, yeah, I mean, spiritually, there. I mean, I'm not aligned to any particular religion or whatever, but there is a place for faith. There you go. And so, you know, like I find people who have a lot of addictions, I sometimes feel that they're spiritually starved. So, you know, they may actually go and have, you know, drug experiences or alcohol experiences because it's the one time that they actually let go and connect with source, you know. And when you explain that to them, you know, often they don't want to hear that, but they get into meditation or some other positive way of doing that, or just connecting with nature, something else, then yeah, then they can have healing as well from that. So. Mhm.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, 'cause I think we feel that, you know, you're going there, you're taking the drugs or the alcohol, whatever, to sort of numb the pain, but actually what you're saying, it's actually you're being drawn towards source instead.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting. I mean, this is quite a good. One thing I'd use as well is a lot of metaphors in my work. So I had someone come to see me who had a very severe alcohol problem and a smoking problem as well. So the alcohol problem was so severe that they had to get breathalyzed in the morning and take a drug that would make them sick if they touched any of it. And you know, I sort of thought everyone's talked to them about why they shouldn't do this and all that, and I thought I'm not going to do that because it's not helpful to them. So I said, you know, how long has this been going on, and what happened just before you started having these behaviours? And they said, well, I got made redundant from my job. And I was like, oh, how did that make you feel? He said, well, worthless. And I said, okay. So, you know, what happened? He said, well, I had like a bullying boss, and they were really on my case, and my figures all went to heck, and ended up losing my job and through redundancy. And I said, so did you ever have like a really good, time at your job? He said, well, yeah, I was a top person in my trade, and I got an award and everything. And I said, well, what was different? He said, well, I had a really good supportive boss. So I said, well, so this guy had lost his self-esteem. And I said, well, if there was a cake, and let's say you were the sugar, and you're the good quality sugar, and there's good quality flour, and then you tipped this bad egg of a boss in there, what's going to happen to the cake? And he says, well, it's going to ruin the cake. It's going to be a terrible cake. I said, okay, so let's say you've got, good quality sugar, that's you, and good quality flour, and you've got this really fresh, nice quality egg of a boss in there that just mixes with the ingredients nicely and complements it. And they said, what kind of cake are you going to get? He says, well, it's going to be great. So I said, okay. So when that cake wasn't good, I said, tell me, is that the sugar's fault? And he looked at me and said, well, no. I said, so if you had a good egg of a boss again, do you think you could be the best at your job again? He's like, I know I could. And he sat up really tall. So in that moment, I gave him back his self-esteem. And then I did the hypnotherapy and all the other stuff I do. But that, that's probably a year and a half now that he's not been drinking or smoking.
Wow.
Saving about £8,000 a year. So
nice.
Well, yeah, so that was incredible, and it's just a different way of thinking. So I do have a problem-solving ability as well, which comes into play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really nice, like you say, because I think traditionally to get help from these sorts of things, you go and you get counselling, and you're very in the moment, and you have to bring up a lot of your, stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So that's a really nice way of dealing with it, isn't it?
Yes.
And obviously gets huge results as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. And what you do in hypnotherapy is you acknowledge that there's a positive that this thing is doing for them, whatever behaviour they have, or fear even, and you find new empowering alternatives that their unconscious picks for them. You can suggest things, but it really is about them picking what's right for them. So someone who's a smoker might just want to get away from their boss before they tell their boss to go and take a hike, and which is not good for their job or their career. And instead they might just say, look, I'm bursting for the toilet, I've got to go. And they just get enough distance to calm down, and they don't need to smoke anymore. So, yeah.
So it's again seeing what the problem that they're coming to you for, what's behind it to help you heal from it, really, isn't it?
Totally. And sometimes you can find things in past lives, and there can be. I know your work will go into further detail of different types of healing, and that kind of thing. But sometimes you come to a dead end where you can't find anything in this life that's caused the problem, and you actually go and ask your unconscious, is there anything in a past life related to it, and you sometimes get a signal saying yes, and you say, can we clear that? And then suddenly they don't have that problem or behavior anymore. So yeah, it really opens your mind up to what's possible. One client of mine gave me a whole story about her whole past life that wasn't even what we were doing, but she knew her name, she knew the place. We looked up on the internet, existed, and I did an interview with her, so I will actually post that at some point. So yeah.
Cool. So we said that with the hypnotherapy and things, you can help people heal from addictions, and obviously from physical things as well, you said.
Yeah.
So what about, I don't know, like things that a lot of people are going through, maybe like depression and things like that. Does it work with those sorts of things as well?
Totally. With depression, very often, obviously, my background before I got into this was I worked in computing in corporate land for 20 years, doing change management and problem management. It's funny because now I help people to manage change and solve problems. And all those skills, which I was like, why am I doing this? It all seemed relevant. So I'm just trying to track. What was the question again? I want to make sure I get back on.
And can it help with things like depression and
Yes.
things like that?
So basically, people have programs. So like the mind, you've probably heard the mind and the computer analogy. So when they invented computers, they were trying to think, right, how does the mind work, and how can we make that happen in a computer? So we've got a yes, no, if, then, else response. And so computers work in the same way. So I can actually think in terms of the code they have. So if I'm smoking and if I want to get away from my boss, I go for a cigarette. And if I want to get away from my boss, I go to the toilet or I go for the coffee machine. And if I can actually go to that code and go, oh right, I just changed that bit, and ask them, are they okay with that? How do they feel about doing that? Yeah, that's great. Okay, let's do that. And then that changes it. So there is that side of it. And with depression, people are usually excellent programmers of themselves. They've got all this negative self-talk, and they're absolutely brilliant programmers, so they're quite often the fastest people to be able to change.
Okay.
Because, it's like they're on their computer every day, and you just go in there and say, right, great, you do this, but I'm just going to change that word panic into calm, and you go, oh my God, all the time I just think I'm going to be calm.
That's great.
And then they're great, So I had a lady who I did a session and it was in a small town, and she went and walked about her town, and she was kind of agoraphobic, she went everywhere in the car, and they're like, what are you doing out? And she says, oh, I just saw Lester, like, he sorted me out now, I can wander about. And it's just changing a couple of lines of code, basically.
And that's really, that actually reminds me of something I was talking to somebody else about the other day, and that is that I think we get into this way of thinking that, especially if we've been unwell for a long time, that the problem is not going to be fixed easily, and we have to do 101 different things that's going to take 2 years to do, but actually with the right practitioner or teacher, coach, whoever, if they can get to the bottom of it, like you do with this getting into the code, then it can be changed very, very quickly. But if we believe it's going to take a long time still, we can be holding ourselves back, can't we, from that change?
Totally. I mean, my own personal stuff, sometimes I find that takes longer to change. But I get someone else comes to me, and I think, I had someone who had, they were losing their eyesight, and it was kind of unexplained, and they were stressed, and I thought, if this was an easy problem, if I could sort this today, what would I do? And that's the kind of way I look at it. And when I used to do problem management for an IT, I would think, if I was to sort this today, what would I do? So let's say people had a lot of things on their PCs that were like games and stuff they shouldn't have had, and there's 1,000 people in the company. So I sent an email out saying we're going to audit all the PCs tomorrow, so this is just a brief warning, and next thing I know, the amount of server space comes up by 20%. Right?
Everyone deleting everything.
I'm thinking, how can I do it? So it's that kind of thinking. So I cleared all this guy's stress, and his eyesight came back. So it is incredible, and I've actually had one of my clients, Louise, who I can mention because she did an interview on YouTube with me. So if you search on Louise Lester Transformation Station, you'll find it. And she had epilepsy, and for the last year she's had no myoclonic jerks, and is looking to apply for her driver's license now after 25 years or whatever, not being able to do that. So, and a lot of it is looking at it, what if it's an easy problem? What if it was easy to solve? So the fact that you're saying that, Faith, is because of the work that you've done, you've got this advanced level of thinking of actually that it is simple a lot of the time, and
And if we can do affirmations on saying it's simple to break the blockages almost down so then it just happen. Totally.
And it is good to get, I know somebody, just a wise counsel. Sometimes the other things I do with it as a coach is people that get to speak their truth, and they hear themselves, and sometimes they come to their own solutions, and you're just guiding them to that place, and and it's like, wow. And the thing is that I can do is I can catch the moment. I'm like, whoa, what was that? And they go, all right, yeah, actually that would do it. So yeah.
It's funny. It's most of the time our body's telling us, isn't it? When we were saying earlier that it's these things are there to help you heal, and also I find when I see clients quite often, and I say, I think perhaps you might have this, and this wrong, and they go, I already knew that, because their body's already been telling them. They've just been choosing not to listen.
That's right. I think the way you do your work, Faith, because just to give you a bit of testimony as well, I've done some of your, session with you, and my family have as well, and I found it really, really valuable, because I think also you have the authority as someone who knows about good health, because you've actually been there, done that, got the t-shirt, you had to learn it the hard way.
Yeah.
And, I think that level of authority helps people to really listen. And I know you were saying, I was fascinated when you said that you had, some clients who were, overweight, and they came back and had lost many stones of weight within just a couple of months because they really paid attention to, what things they should be avoiding in their diet and all that kind of thing. And I found that completely fascinating. And we've got little jars downstairs of good things for good bacteria and things. And
fermented stuff.
Yeah. And so we're enjoying taking all that. It's fascinating. And it's also fascinating to learn what things you're intolerant to. You expect the normal, the wheats and dairy and caffeine and all those things. But, I found things like onions and corn that I thought I was doing to be healthy, and fruit even, that I need to maybe have some space from them and then reintegrate them into my diet. Yeah.
The thing is, when we start to get out of balance, and you'll know this from your work, it kind of snowballs, doesn't it? Somebody might have one problem, for a few months, a year or whatever, and then another thing will come along because it's almost because you're ignoring the original problem. The body goes, right, listen now.
Yes.
And then you might ignore that, and then another problem comes along and it goes, listen again.
And we do get layers of stuff as well, when I do my work, I help, clear the big layers, and then they find other stuff. And also people, you were talking in one of your videos about secondary gain. And, there's a lot of folk who unconsciously are looking for connection. So if they have, an illness or even depression and things like that, there can be that thing of, well, when I do get depressed, people care for me and they bring me gifts and they, give me attention. And what that can become, though, is it becomes obligation. It's not love, and it gets mistaken. Love is saying, I'm here for you to give you a hug and let's go and go bowling together. Let's do something fun. And it doesn't always have to be connection through those means. So, sometimes it's a relearning for people.
Yeah, that's true. Once we admit to these things ourselves, sometimes it's hard to admit to it, isn't it?
Especially if it's our stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have any stuff. No. Other people have got stuff.
Yeah. It's been really great speaking to you. What I'm going to do, in case anybody wants to connect with you or listen to some of your recordings or book a session or something, I'm going to put your web address and Facebook and everything below the video, so everyone will be able to click directly on that and connect with you. But I just wondered if you've got any last words of wisdom to leave us on.
Yeah. From all the personal development books I've read and everything, just leaving one principle with you. When people have got something that's not right in their body or in their soul or spirit or health, it's usually because they're focusing on what they don't want. So the tip is really just to focus on what you do want. So if you're stressed, focus on calm. If you're unhealthy and you're ill, focus on health. And so focus on what you do want, and it's a lot easier to attract and find the ways to that result.
Yeah, that's such a simple concept, but so effective as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But also a bit hard sometimes to get into the habit of doing it initially.
Take practice.
Yeah. Oh, it's been brilliant speaking to you, Lester. Thank you ever so much for your time, and thanks, and I'll speak to you again.
Yes, see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.